Hey everybody, this is Ben from Experience Audio. I wanted to do a quick little video explaining how I edit podcasts inside of Logic using Shuffle L and Shuffle R modes. And this is really like the basis of how I edit podcasts, and it's super important. And it will save you so much time because a lot of people when they're getting started editing podcasts, they're doing a lot of like just dragging audio files in different directions. It will drive you nuts. Using shuffle modes inside of Logic is really the easiest way to quickly control your podcast, make everybody sound smarter, really fast. Let's just get into it. So this is an excerpt from my podcast, Secret Sonics, with an episode with a guy named Lou Moreno. Great conversation. And I'll just kind of show you how in real time I am doing those edits using the shuffle mode. So before we do that, I know I said I was going to get right into it, but really quickly here, there's this drag mode, right? You see it says no overlap, and there's shuffle R and there's shuffle L. And I've made myself, some key commands to basically shuffle between no overlap, shuffle L and shuffle right. L meaning left and R meaning right. So I just set it for F16, 17, and 18 on my keyboard, but you could do it any way you want. You can easily edit all of your key commands here, right? Key commands, edit assignments, right, inside of Logic, and you could search for shuffle, right? So basically, actually, if you search for drag mode, you can get all of these, and you could set, key commands for all of these. I actually don't use the X fade or the overlap mode. I don't know why overlap mode would ever be needed for anything, and the X fade mode doesn't work so well for me because it does it basically in overlap mode as opposed to no overlap mode. So it just confuses me. I want there to be no overlap. I want to know exactly when I have audio or don't have audio. So basically, I'm alternating between no overlap mode, shuffle L, and shuffle R. And I will show you how those work and how you could easily edit your podcast using those modes. So my podcast, I edit in shuffle L mode because as I'm kind of moving through the timeline, I'm just kind of trimming back what's at the end. I will use shuffle R mode if I'm editing a podcast that already has edit notes from, let's say I work on a podcast for a newspaper, for a news publication, and they've given me a cut sheet of like, hey, 10 minutes and 42 seconds, let's cut that. I'll make sure to be in shuffle right mode because that way I can go through the podcast and all of those edit notes are going to be consistent and stay in the same time as I move through it. If I was in shuffle L mode, that every time I make a cut of 2 seconds, the next edit note will be 2 seconds later. So let me just quickly show you what I'm talking about. So if now I'm in shuffle L, if I highlight a little region here and I hit delete, everything to the right of that region gets shuffled to the left. So it gets a little bit earlier. If I undo that, I move to shuffle right, everything to the left of that region is now going to shuffle over to the right and will now be further along in the timeline. You see? Let's do it again. Delete, right, undo. Let's move to shuffle L. Everything on the right now is scooting to the left, right? And so let's stick now with shuffle L, and I'll kind of just walk you through a couple edits, and you can see what's going on here. Okay, so I'll just let's listen through a little bit of the podcast, and I'll show you how I will use these modes to kind of edit really quickly. Hello, and welcome back to Secret Sonics. I am your host, Ben Wallach. My guest today is Lou Moreno. Lou is the co-founder of In the Mix Studios and the founder of Midside Sound. He's an industry professional mixing and mastering engineer. All right, so that's clearly an edit that I need to get rid of to make myself sound a bit smarter in my podcast edit. So I will just show you how I will do that in shuffle L mode. All right, basically, I got into the marquee mode in Logic, which I used just by hitting Command. You'll be in the marquee mode, right? There's other ways to do it, right? You could choose T, and where's marquee mode? TR, so I could go like TR, and that would make my left click marquee mode. But I tend not to do that. I would just use Command. And this is basically, it's the most important tool, I think, in Logic, is the marquee tool. And I'll just highlight this region really quickly where I kind of had my stutter, and I'll basically sound like this came right after this, so to speak. So let's do a delete in shuffle L mode. Remember, right here, drag mode, shuffle L, delete. Let's play it back. And the founder of Midside Sound. He's an industry professional mixing and mastering engineer. Oh, so it looks like I overdid it a little bit on the right. Let's get a little bit more of that H back in there. And the founder of Midside Sound. He's an industry professional mixing and mastering engineer. Right, so basically that's how I would do it. Let's hear what it was like before. Again, I could just show you how I did it. He's an industry here and the founder of Midside Sound. He's an industry professional. He's an industry professional mixing and mastering engineer. So basically, now I'm going to redo that edit, and you'll see exactly how it. Now I remember to give a little bit more room over there, and it'll sound exactly like it was before and super smooth. And the founder of Midside Sound. He's an industry professional mixing and mastering engineer. Lou has worked with Keisha Cole, Ari Lennox, Lucky Day, G-Eazy, and many, many more. He's also the co-host of the popular Mixing Music podcast, alongside former singer. I'm going to redo that. He's also the co-host of the popular Mixing Music. Why am I not doing it? All right, here it is. He's also the co-host of the popular Mixing Music podcast, alongside. Right, so there's a lot of stuff to cut there, but it's all really easy inside of shuffle mode. He's also the co-host of the popular. So this is how I began it, and I messed it up, and this is how I redid it, and it was good. So if I just literally highlight this whole region, and I use Shuffle L, it's going to be as if none of that ever happened. But here we go. Ari Lennox, Lucky Day, G-Eazy, and many, many more. He's also the co-host of the popular Mixing Music podcast, alongside former singer. Let me give it a little bit more breathing room. Day, G-Eazy, and many, many more. He's also the co-host of the popular. Well, now we're going into different territory here because I'm dragging things out to give it a bit more breathing room. And I would probably sometimes I'll just play around with where I'm dragging from. I try to leave in breaths to sound natural when I'm editing. Lucky Day, G-Eazy, and many, many more. He's also the co-host of the popular Mix. All right, so we need a bit more of the breath at the end there, right? You can hear. So let's just do it right to the edge. And like that. Let's see. G-Eazy, and many, many more. He's also the co-host of the popular Mix. Many, many more. He's also the co-host of the popular Mix. So sometimes I'll make like a fade that's a little bit more longer to kind of make the breath sound a little bit more natural. G-Eazy, and many, many more. He's also the co-host of the No, that's not working either. Well, we'll have to figure something out. Let's see. There's a lot of stuff here that I'm not showing in this YouTube video because I just don't want to go too long. But basically, the bottom line is you want to find that kind of right balance, and many, many more. He's also the co-host of the popular Mixing Music podcast, alongside. Honestly, that's probably good enough for most edits. And as you see, I just cut out all that massive section with the Shuffle L, and I'll continue doing that throughout this kind of a podcast. Yeah, and it's just an easy way to just get everything nice and tidy really, really quickly, and you don't have to drag everything around. And I should note that when you are working in shuffle mode, you want to drag both tracks or however many conversation tracks there are simultaneously, and you want to make sure that there are always even lines, because if you're not careful in the shuffle mode, things can get really, really messy. So if you're working in shuffle mode, make sure to be careful to cut both tracks, because if you cut one track, you're gonna mess up your sync, right? Both tracks need to be cut exact same way. You see? Now everything moves. If I just do one track, my whole thing shifted. Only Lou's track shifted and mine didn't. And our whole sync is done. So you have to be super careful. And I'll just give away one more secret in terms of these modes. If I'm not sure about, or if I have overtalk or something that I need to somehow drag out, I will remove it from Shuffle L mode. And I could drag this out, and therefore I don't lose my sync. But then I cover myself by doing a highlight around that, building new regions so that if there are more cuts, the sync will always be the same. So I'm just always making sure that there are even regions on both tracks, or however many tracks there are in a conversation, in order to make sure that the shuffling is always super, super tight. I hope that makes sense. I will get to that in another video. But yeah, basically, Shuffle L, Shuffle R is the easiest way to edit podcasts inside of Logic, at least conversational podcasts, and experiment with what works for you. Again, key commands, so easy. Marquee tool, command click, good to go. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this was helpful. If you liked what this is about, you can go check out my website, experienceaudio.com. We help make your podcast sound better, make you sound smarter, all that stuff. You can go check it out in the link in the description. And until next time, have a good one.